It was going to be an 18-hole golf course, strip mall, and mansions.
I don't think that the powers that be who are governing this land are aware of the strength of opinion that people have about not blindly pursuing what we call progress today.
We went in one generation from an ocean that was pretty rich to an ocean that was like pretty empty.
There's a full court press to try and smash the environmental community.
Laguna is surrounded by 22,000 acres of open space. We call that the Laguna Greenbelt.
The Greenbelt movement started famously with James Dilley.
Jim Dilley had a bookstore downtown. He was a character.
Jim Dilley, back in the 60s, went on a trip to England and was inspired by the drives that he would make from village to village with these beautiful green belts in between them. And he came home back to Laguna and thought to himself, I want to start a green belt here.
People just want to develop things. It's something that's natural. I think people want to make money and they want to make a profit.
Back in the 80s, the Irvine Company put forth its first proposal to develop Laguna Canyon.
The Irvine Company's job is to develop. They are some of the better developers that we've had in Southern California.
I grew up in North Laguna, and a lot of that was ultimately going to be slated for development, which we've seen all across Orange County.
I just think they looked at this juicy morsel, which they owned, and said, this is next, this is next, this is next. Profit is just too delicious for some people to say no to.
But with this phase, what we wanted to do was to create a piece of art that would be not within the studio confines or the gallery confines, but would be out in the environment, which is, after all, what we were concerned with.
Mark Chamberlain was an artivist.
Passionate environmental advocate.
He and his partner came up with this idea to do the tell.
We're here to celebrate, it's by far the biggest phase of that project, the tell.
The tell was something that came together for Mark because he wanted to stop development in Laguna Canyon. An art installation that was 300 feet long, 80,000 photos were donated by people to tell the story of Laguna Canyon.
The idea of using art to make a difference in our society came from his vision for these projects. Art speaks to people. Mark was an absolute master at using art to make that happen.
This wall is the perfect background to a huge protest event.
It was literally the 11th hour, the 11th month, the 11th day.
You can contribute to saving the canyon. November 11th, be there.
We came together with this concept to raise the awareness on a level that no one's ever seen before.
We took advantage of the situation because we knew there were people wanting to do something. There were 10,000 people outside gathering, wanting to go down the road, and we're going, oh, are you done yet? Let's go.
People were 10 deep along the canyon road, walking out there.
The point of the whole day is to let people know that we are not in agreement with the proposed development, and we would like to save the canyon.
It was a catalyst.
It worked.
We saved the canyon. We as a community have worked hard, and it shows, but it's not done.
You're never done protecting the environment. I think in Laguna Beach, one of the big challenges was the locals that were used to going out and fishing.
And you hear these stories. There's guys that are still alive in town today who in the 60s and early 70s would supply their whole sort of night's party with seafood right off the coast of Laguna. I grew up fishing and spear fishing, and I'd go out with my buddies and we'd try to catch fish off the coast in Laguna. We just couldn't catch any. So we went back and asked the older lifeguards, like, what's going on? Why can't we catch any fish? What are we doing wrong? And the answer was, it's fished out.
They would kill a fish, bring it in and eat it. Or they'd take an abalone, bring it in and eat it. Doing that for 50 years, it kind of took out most of the fish and all of the abalone.
A law was passed called the Marine Life Protection Act. And the goal was to organize the existing marine protected areas and build new ones. It was incredibly antagonistic. We're basically telling the recreational commercial fishermen that they can't fish in these places. There really was no middle ground. If we give these places a chance, they will come roaring back. That's what Laguna did about 12 years ago. And 12 years later, it's unrecognizable.
Since Laguna had a greenbelt for the last 80 years, when it came an opportunity to protect the ocean, we thought, well, maybe a blue belt. And we sort of attribute the label to James Dilley. I think the greenbelt and blue belt speak to our core spirit.
Whether it was the green space or the blue belt, that was all driven by local activism.
If you go back all the way to the early days of the plein air painters, people in this community have been using art as a way to represent and protect our environment.
When you're around something that's so spectacular as our greenbelt, hills and mountains and trails, and then you go into the ocean and you see what's underwater, what's invisible, you can't help but want to protect it.
I think sometimes it's easy for people to think, well, we saved the canyon, right? We saved the coast. We've got marine protected areas. We don't need to worry about it anymore. The coast has never been saved. The coast is always being saved. We're never done with the work that we're doing. We always need to be working to protect the things that we love.